The ancient ruins stood silent against the orange sky of Kepler 442b. Dr. HFY pressed her scaled hand against the smooth metal wall and felt the familiar tingle of elder technology. After 20 years of studying these mysterious structures, she still got excited every time she found a new site. The Galactic Confederation had built their entire civilization on elder ruins. Every major city used elder power cores. Every starship flew using elder engines. Every computer ran on elder processors. But nobody knew who the elders really were or where they had gone. "The metal is still warm after all these years," HFY said to her assistant. A young Corvin named Thek. His forearms worked quickly to set up the scanning equipment. "Professor, the thermal readings are strange," Thek said, his antenna twitching with confusion. "The whole structure is generating power, but there are no visible energy sources." HFY nodded. This was typical of elder sites. They seemed to violate basic laws of physics. The Confederation's best scientists had studied elder technology for over 3,000 years, but they could barely understand how to use it, let alone how it worked. The excavation team had been digging here for 6 months. Most elder ruins were found on the surface, damaged by time and weather. But deep ground scans had shown something unusual buried under 50 meters of rock and soil. "Something intact, Professor?" called Dr. Vextar from across the dig site. The Altarian researcher was covered in dust, but her excitement was obvious. "We found an entrance!" HFY hurried over to where the team had uncovered a smooth archway. Unlike most elder ruins, this one showed no signs of damage. The metal surface was perfect, as if it had been built yesterday. "Have you tried to open it?" HFY asked. "We tried everything," Vextar said. "Heat, pressure, electromagnetic fields, sonic vibrations. Nothing works." HFY approached the doorway and placed both hands on the surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then symbols began to appear on the metal, glowing with soft blue light. The symbols shifted and changed, cycling through dozens of different languages and writing systems. "It's trying to communicate," HFY whispered. "The symbols? I recognize some of them. Altarian, Corvin, even ancient Tyrillian script." The doorway suddenly made a soft humming sound and split apart, revealing a dark passage beyond. Cool air flowed out, carrying a strange scent that none of the team could identify. "The atmosphere inside is breathable," Thek reported, checking his instruments. "Oxygen levels are actually higher than outside." HFY led the team into the passage. Emergency lights activated automatically as they walked, creating pools of warm light ahead of them. The walls were covered with more symbols, these ones staying stable instead of changing. The passage opened into a vast chamber. The team stopped and stared in amazement. The room was filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light. In the center stood a pillar of black metal covered with thousands of tiny symbols. "This is incredible," Vextar breathed. "It's like the entire chamber is alive." HFY approached the central pillar carefully. As she got closer, the symbols began to glow brighter. When she touched the surface, the entire chamber filled with holographic displays showing star maps, genetic charts, and streams of data in dozens of languages. "It's some kind of archive," she said. "Look at this data. These appear to be genetic samples from hundreds of different species." Thek was studying one of the star maps. "Professor, this chart shows the entire galaxy, but it's different from our current maps. Many of these star systems don't exist anymore." HFY moved to another display showing genetic information. Her breath caught in her throat as she realized what she was looking at. "These genetic markers, they match samples we found at elder sites across the galaxy. So this confirms the elders were a single species?" Vextar asked. "Not just that," HFY said, her voice shaking with excitement. "Look at this notation here. The genetic samples are labeled with a species name." The team gathered around as HFY pointed to symbols that had appeared in a language none of them recognized, but which the archive was already translating into their native scripts. "Humans," HFY read aloud. "The elders called themselves humans." The chamber fell silent except for the gentle humming of the crystalline structures. This was impossible. No known species in the galaxy used that name. The word didn't exist in any galactic language database. "There's more," HFY said, studying another display. "Star charts pointing to a specific system. The notation says origin point and primary world." Thek was already running the coordinates through his portable computer. "Professor, these coordinates point to the Sol system in the outer rim." "But that's impossible." The Sol system was destroyed by stellar collapse over 4,000 years ago. It's just an empty region of space now. HFY stared at the data streaming across the holographic displays. Everything they thought they knew about the Elders was wrong. The mysterious builders of galactic civilization hadn't transcended to another plane of existence or evolved beyond physical form. They had been a species called humans, and according to this archive, they had come from a star system that supposedly no longer existed. "We need to contact the Confederation Council immediately," she said, "and we need to organize an expedition to the Sol system." "But Professor," Vextar said, "if the system was destroyed, what could we possibly find there?" HFY looked at the genetic data still flowing across the displays. The biological information was incredibly detailed, showing not just genetic markers but behavioral patterns, technological capabilities, and something else that made her skin crawl with unease. "According to this archive," she said slowly, "the species that built our entire civilization was remarkably similar to several current galactic species. Almost as if—" She stopped, not wanting to voice the impossible thought forming in her mind. "As if what, Professor?" Thek asked. HFY touched the pillar again, and new displays appeared showing what looked like genealogical charts connecting the Elder genetic data to dozens of modern species throughout the galaxy. "As if they were our ancestors," she whispered. "As if every intelligent species in the galaxy somehow descended from these humans." The implications were staggering. If the Elders were the genetic predecessors of modern galactic civilization, then finding out what happened to them wasn't just a matter of scientific curiosity. It was a matter of understanding the origin of all life in the galaxy. "Professor," Thek said quietly, "if this is true, then the question isn't just who were the Elders. The question is, what happened to our ancestors and why did they disappear?" HFY stared at the star charts pointing toward the supposedly dead Sol system. Something told her that the answers they would find there would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about itself. "Prepare the data for transmission to the Council," she said, "and start preparing for a long journey. We're going to find out what really happened to the humans." The crystalline structures pulsed brighter, as if the archive approved of their decision. In the soft blue light, the genetic charts continued to scroll past, showing the biological heritage of an entire galaxy waiting to be reunited with its forgotten past. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council had been called within hours of receiving Dr. HFY's report. Representatives from over 200 species filled the great chamber on Nexus Prime, their voices creating a buzz of confusion and disbelief. Chancellor Mordun, an elderly Vorthan with silver scales, called for order. "Dr. HFY, please present your findings to the Council." HFY stood at the central podium, her research data projected on massive screens around the chamber. "Honored representatives, what we discovered on Kepler 442b challenges everything we believed about the Elders." She activated the first display, showing the genetic data from the archive. "The beings who built our civilization called themselves humans. More importantly, the genetic markers suggest they were the common ancestors of most intelligent species in our galaxy." A roar of voices erupted from the council chambers. Representative Kithara of the Hegemony Alliance stood up, her red skin flushed with anger. "This is impossible. The Altarians evolved from our own homeworld. We have millions of years of fossil records." "With respect," HFY replied, "your fossil records show rapid evolutionary jumps that have never been explained. The human genetic data suggests these jumps were not natural evolution, but guided development." Chancellor Mordun raised his hand for silence. "Dr. HFY, you mentioned coordinates pointing to the Sol system. Our records show that system was destroyed by stellar collapse." "That's what we believed," HFY said, "but I'm requesting permission to lead an expedition to verify this. If the archive is correct, we may find something unexpected there." The debate raged for hours. Some council members called the findings fascinating, others declared them dangerous propaganda. The idea that their entire civilization was built on the ruins of their own ancestors was disturbing to many species who took pride in their independent evolution. 3 weeks later, the expedition ship Seeker's Dream dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Captain Yextal, an experienced Corvan explorer, studied the sensor readings with confusion. "Dr. HFY," he said, "this is impossible. The system isn't dead. I'm reading 9 planets, including a blue-green world in the habitable zone. HFY rushed to the sensor station. The data was clear. Not only was the Sol system intact, but the third planet from the star was teeming with life. Take us closer to the third planet, she ordered. Maintain stealth mode. If there are intelligent beings down there, we don't want to alarm them. As they approached Earth, the crew gathered around the main view screen in amazement. The planet was beautiful, with swirling white clouds, blue oceans, and green-brown continents. But what shocked them most were the signs of civilization. I'm detecting multiple settlements, reported Science Officer Nethwy. But the technology readings are strange. They appear to be pre-industrial, using primitive tools in basic agriculture. Are you certain? HFY asked. According to the archive, this should be the homeworld of the most advanced species in galactic history. Through their telescopes, they observed the planet's inhabitants. The beings were bipedal, with pale skin, hair in various colors, and body proportions that matched the genetic data from the Elder archive. They were definitely the same species, but these humans lived in small villages, used simple tools made of metal and wood, and traveled by foot or on 4-legged animals. There were no cities, no advanced technology, no signs of the incredible capabilities described in the Elder ruins. It's like they've forgotten everything, Captain Yextal said. How does a species go from building galactic civilization to this? Dr. HFY studied the observations for days. The humans on Earth displayed strange behaviors that didn't match their primitive technology. They built stone monuments that aligned perfectly with star patterns. They told stories around fires that included references to sky fathers and star journeys. Most puzzling, some of their children showed remarkable understanding of mathematics and physics that should have been impossible at their technological level. Look at this, she said to her team, showing footage of a young human girl drawing complex geometric patterns in the dirt while her elders weren't watching. She's calculating orbital mechanics using stick figures. The expedition team observed for 2 weeks, documenting everything they could without making contact. The humans seemed happy and peaceful, but there was something underneath their simple lives that none of the observers could identify. Professor, Nethwy said during their final observation session, I've been monitoring their communication patterns. They're using verbal language, but there are subsonic frequencies in their speech that our equipment can barely detect. Subsonic frequencies? HFY asked. Complex data patterns embedded in their normal conversation. It's almost like they're transmitting information on a level they're not consciously aware of. Before HFY could respond, their sensors detected something that made the entire crew freeze. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, massive energy signatures were activating. Structures larger than entire cities were powering up, creating electromagnetic fields that the primitive humans on the surface couldn't possibly generate. Captain, the ship's AI announced, we're being scanned. Something on the planet has detected us despite our stealth systems. On the main screen, a new image appeared. It wasn't transmitted from their own sensors. Something on Earth was sending them a message. The image showed a human face, but this one was different. The eyes held intelligence that seemed to span centuries, and when it spoke, the words appeared in perfect galactic standard. Welcome, children of the galaxy. We have been expecting you. The bridge fell silent. This was not the primitive human they had been observing. This being radiated the same sense of ancient power that the Elder ruins did. You have many questions, the human continued. We will answer them. But first you must understand that what you have observed is not what it appears to be. We are not a fallen civilization. We are a civilization that chose to sleep until our children were ready to meet us as equals. Captain Yextal found his voice. You're saying the primitive settlements are fake? Not fake, the human replied. A different kind of truth. We have been waiting and watching and preparing. Your arrival means the time of waiting may be ending. Dr. HFY leaned forward. Preparing for what? The human smiled, and in that expression was the weight of millennia. For the return of the Elders to a galaxy that has grown wise enough to understand why we left. The transmission ended, leaving the expedition crew staring at a blank screen. Below them, the primitive human settlements continued their daily routines, apparently unaware that their world had just revealed itself to be something far more complex than anyone in the galaxy had imagined. Set course for home. HFY said quietly. The Council needs to know immediately. We didn't find the ruins of our ancestors. We found our ancestors themselves, and they've been watching us all along. As the Seeker's dream jumped back into hyperspace, deep beneath Earth's surface, ancient systems continued to awaken, preparing for a reunion 3,000 years in the making. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, in chambers that existed between dimensions, the Council of Preservation gathered for the first time in 300 years. The 12 beings who appeared in the crystal chamber looked human, but their eyes held the wisdom of ages, and their bodies flickered occasionally, as if they existed in multiple realities at once. Sarah Chen 9947 spoke first, her voice carrying the weight of millennia. The Watchers report that the Galactic expedition has returned home. The Confederation knows we exist. Earlier than projected, said Marcus Volkov 7823, his form solidifying as he focused his attention on the meeting. Our models suggested first contact would occur in another century. The acceleration was inevitable, replied Elena Vasquez 8901. Dr. Zephyr's discovery of the Kepler archive was always a high-probability event. Her species has the intellectual curiosity necessary for the breakthrough. The Council of Preservation represented humanity's greatest minds, uploaded into quantum substrates during the implementation of the long sleep protocol 3,000 years ago. They had guided humanity through its voluntary regression, maintaining the essential infrastructure while allowing the surface population to live simple lives. Explain the current status, Sarah requested, the chamber filled with holographic displays showing Earth's hidden systems. Beneath the planet's crust, vast networks of quantum computers processed information from across the galaxy. Automated factories in parallel dimensions continued producing technologies that the surface humans couldn't even imagine. Most importantly, the genetic enhancement programs that had been suspended during the long sleep were beginning to reactivate. The surface population is ready, reported David Kim 6634, the Council's specialist in human development. 3,000 years of careful breeding has maintained the genetic flexibility necessary for rapid enhancement. When the protocol ends, we can restore full human capabilities within a single generation. But should we? Asked Thomas Anderson 7745. The children have built their own civilization. Perhaps it's time to let them continue without our interference. Sarah gestured, and the displays changed to show the current state of galactic politics. The Confederation was stable but fragmented. War still occurred between member species. Environmental destruction continued on dozens of worlds. Most concerning, several species were developing weapons that could threaten entire star systems. They're not ready, she said simply. Look at the Hegemony Alliance. They've developed planet-killer weapons within 50 years of discovering elder energy cores. The Corvan Republic is experimenting with genetic warfare. The galaxy has grown, but it hasn't matured. Yet some have, Elena pointed out. Dr. Zeph's species shows remarkable wisdom. The Altarians have avoided major conflicts for over 800 years. Several smaller species have achieved true sustainability on their homeworlds. Marcus nodded. The question isn't whether the galaxy is ready for us to return as rulers. The question is whether they're ready for us to return as teachers. The discussion continued for hours, as it had countless times over the centuries. The long sleep protocol had been humanity's greatest sacrifice and greatest gift to the galaxy. After their first expansion into space, humans had discovered they were too adaptable, too innovative, too successful. Everywhere they went, other species either worshipped them as gods or feared them as destroyers. The solution had been radical, voluntary regression. Humanity would step back, allow their children's species to develop independently, and return only when the galaxy was mature enough for true coexistence. The Watchers report unusual activity, David said, calling up new displays. Several species are mobilizing military forces in response to the expedition's discoveries. The Hegemony Alliance has increased weapons production by 300%. They fear us, Thomas observed. Perhaps rightfully so. Fear can be overcome with understanding, Sarah said. But we need to control the pace of revelation. If we emerge too quickly, we'll trigger exactly the kind of conflict we've spent 3 millennia trying to prevent. Elena stood, her form becoming more solid as she made her decision. I volunteer to make contact. My research specialty was xenopsychology. I can approach them in a way that minimizes fear. Approved, Sarah said. But not as yourself. Take a surface identity. Let them discover us gradually. The council voted and the decision was unanimous. Humanity would begin the slow process of emerging from the long sleep, but carefully, gradually, with wisdom gained from 3,000 years of patient observation. Meanwhile, on the surface in the village of New Haven, a young woman named Maria Santos was working in her garden when she suddenly stopped, her eyes unfocusing. For a moment, knowledge flowed through her mind, star charts, quantum equations, the true history of the galaxy. Then it faded, leaving only a strange certainty that change was coming. She wasn't the only one. Across Earth, the surface population was beginning to experience what they called the dreams. Sudden flashes of impossible knowledge, visions of vast civilizations among the stars, and an inexplicable understanding that they were part of something much larger than their simple villages suggested. In the capital city of the Confederation, Dr. HFY was presenting her full report to an emergency session of the Science Council. "The implications are staggering," she told the assembled scientists. "If the humans are truly our ancestors, then every advance we've made, every technology we've developed, has been built on foundations they laid. But why would they regress?" asked Dr. Korthtai, a prominent physicist. "What could cause such an advanced species to abandon their achievements?" "Perhaps they didn't abandon them," HFY replied. "Perhaps they're still there, waiting for the right time to reveal themselves." Her words proved prophetic. That same day, elder ruins across the galaxy began activating simultaneously. Ancient monuments that had been dormant for millennia suddenly came to life, displaying messages in the native languages of every species that approached them. The messages were identical. "The children have grown. The time of teaching begins soon. Prepare for reunion." On Earth, Elena Vasquez 8901 took physical form for the first time in 1,000 years, appearing as a simple traveler walking the road toward New Haven. She carried nothing but the clothes on her back and a small device that could reshape reality if necessary. As she walked, she composed the words she would use to begin humanity's return to the galaxy, words that would need to balance revelation with reassurance, truth with gentleness. The children of the stars were about to meet their parents, and Elena knew that the next few months would determine whether that meeting would be a joyful reunion or a cosmic catastrophe. Behind her, hidden in dimensions beyond normal perception, the vast machinery of human civilization hummed to life after 3 millennia of patient sleep. The elders were returning, and the galaxy would never be the same. The messages from the elder ruins changed everything. Within days of their activation, every major government in the galaxy was in crisis. Some species celebrated, believing their gods were returning. Others panicked, fearing conquest. The Hegemony Alliance declared martial law and began preparing for war. Dr. HFY found herself at the center of the chaos. Her discovery had triggered events that were spinning beyond anyone's control. She stood in her laboratory on Nexus Prime, surrounded by data streams from across the galaxy, trying to make sense of what was happening. "Professor," her assistant Thek said, bursting into the lab. "Emergency transmission from Earth. A human is requesting to speak with you personally." The main screen activated, showing a woman with dark hair and kind eyes. She looked like the primitive humans they had observed, but something in her expression suggested vast intelligence. "Dr. HFY," the woman said, "my name is Elena Vasquez. I represent the human collective. We need to talk. Are you one of the elders?" HFY asked. Elena smiled sadly. "I was human when your species was still learning to use fire. But please don't think of us as gods or conquerors. We're parents who left their children to grow up, and now we're wondering if it's time to come home." The conversation that followed lasted for hours. Elena explained the long sleep protocol, humanity's decision to step back and allow other species to develop independently. She spoke of the guilt humans felt at their own success, how everywhere they went they accidentally destroyed or overshadowed other forms of life. "We didn't want to be gods," Elena said. "We wanted to be neighbors, so we chose to wait until our children were strong enough to stand beside us as equals." "But the galaxy isn't united," HFY protested. "We still have wars, conflicts, species that hate each other. We're not ready for your return." "Perfection was never the goal," Elena replied. "Growth was, and you have grown remarkably. The fact that you can have this conversation, that you can question whether you're ready, proves you've developed wisdom we weren't sure you'd achieve." Their discussion was interrupted by alarms throughout the building. Thek ran to the communication station, his face pale with fear. Professor, the Hegemony Alliance has launched a full military assault on the Sol system. 300 ships carrying planet-killer weapons. They're declaring it a preemptive strike against an Elder invasion. Elena's expression didn't change, but HFY saw something flicker in her eyes. Not fear, but profound sadness. They're making a terrible mistake, Elena said quietly. Can you defend yourselves? HFY asked. The question isn't whether we can defend ourselves. The question is whether we should. The view screen shifted to show the approaching Hegemony fleet. The ships were massive, heavily armed with weapons developed from Elder technology. Leading them was the flagship Eternal Victory, commanded by Admiral Vectar, a veteran of a dozen interspecies conflicts. This is Admiral Vectar of the Hegemony Alliance, came the transmission from the fleet. Surrender immediately or face total annihilation. We will not allow the Elder species to resume their domination of the galaxy. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them, they held the weight of millennia. Dr. HFY, would you like to see what we've really been doing for the past 3,000 years? The view on the screen changed, showing not just Earth but the entire Sol system from a perspective that should have been impossible. Vast structures became visible in space around every planet, hidden in dimensions that existed parallel to normal reality. The primitive human settlements on Earth were revealed to be the smallest visible part of a civilization that existed primarily outside of normal space-time. We've been building, Elena said simply. Not weapons or empires, but understanding. We've been learning how to exist without harming others, how to grow without taking up space that other species need, how to help without controlling. The Hegemony fleet opened fire as soon as they entered the Sol system. Planet-killer weapons that could crack worlds apart struck Earth directly, but instead of destruction, something impossible happened. The weapons passed through the planet as if it wasn't there, while the humans below continued their daily activities, completely unaware that they should have been vaporized. Phase displacement, Elena explained to the stunned Dr. HFY. We exist in the same location but in different dimensional states. Their weapons can't touch us because we're not entirely in the same reality they are. Admiral Vectar's confusion was broadcast across all frequencies. His weapons were useless, his tactical advantages meaningless. But instead of retaliation, something unexpected happened. The entire Hegemony fleet found itself transported to a vast space that couldn't exist, a dimension where physical laws worked differently, where the boundary between mind and matter was fluid. Here, suspended in gentle light, they met the true form of the human collective. It wasn't an army of godlike beings preparing for conquest. It was billions of human consciousnesses linked together, sharing knowledge and experience across thousands of years. But despite their vast capabilities, they remained recognizably human, curious, emotional, sometimes confused, but driven by an irrepressible desire to help and protect. Admiral Vectar found himself face-to-face with Sarah Chen 9947, the eldest of the collective. She appeared as a middle-aged woman with graying hair and laugh lines around her eyes. Why didn't you fight back? He demanded. We came here to destroy you. Because fighting back would prove that we haven't learned anything in 3,000 years, Sarah replied. Admiral, your species developed from genetic templates we provided 4,000 years ago. You're not our enemies. You're our children, afraid that your parents have come home to take away your independence. We won't be ruled by anyone, Vectar declared. Good, Sarah said, smiling. We didn't spend 3 millennia learning wisdom just to throw it away by becoming tyrants. We want to offer partnership, not domination. Around them, the space filled with images of what humanity had discovered during their long sleep. Technologies that could heal dying worlds, methods for achieving true peace between conflicting species, ways to explore the universe without destroying the life they found there. This is what we've learned, Sarah continued. This is what we want to share. Not as gods giving commands to worshippers, but as teachers offering knowledge to students who have become our equals. The conversation lasted for what felt like hours, but was only minutes in normal time. When the Hegemony fleet returned to normal space, they found their weapons deactivated and their ships surrounded by other vessels. Not human ships, but Confederation vessels that had arrived to witness whatever was about to happen. Admiral Vectar transmitted on all frequencies. Stand down. All ships, stand down. We have made contact. Dr. HFY watched from Nexus Prime as the crisis transformed into something unprecedented. Instead of war, first contact between humanity and their descendants was becoming the largest peaceful gathering in galactic history. But she knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy now faced a choice that would define the next phase of civilization. Would they accept humanity's return as teachers and partners? Or would fear and pride tear apart everything they had built together? Elena Vasquez appeared one more time on her screen. Dr. Zephi, would you be willing to serve as an ambassador? We're going to need bridge builders in the days ahead. Looking at the images of human and alien ships gathering peacefully in the Sol system, Zephi nodded. It would be an honor to help our families learn to live together again. 6 months after first contact, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in the Sol system for the most important diplomatic summit in galactic history. The meeting place was extraordinary, a vast space station that humans had constructed in just weeks, existing partially in normal space and partially in other dimensions to accommodate species with different environmental needs. Dr. Zephi stood in the central assembly hall, watching as delegates from over 300 species took their places. Some came in environmental suits, others projected themselves as holograms, and a few existed as pure energy patterns. Despite their differences, they all shared the same mixture of curiosity and nervousness. The humans had insisted that the surface population of Earth remain unchanged during the negotiations. The simple villages continued their daily routines while their enhanced ancestors worked to reshape galactic civilization. This balance between advanced and simple had become a symbol of humanity's approach. Power coupled with humility. Sarah Chen 9947 materialized at the center of the assembly, appearing as a normal middle-aged woman despite representing the collective intelligence of billions of enhanced humans. Friends, she began, and the word carried weight across all the translation systems. We gather today not as rulers and subjects, but as family members who have been apart too long. Chancellor Morden of the Confederation spoke first. The question we all face is simple. What does humanity's return mean for galactic sovereignty? Will our species maintain independence, or do we become subjects of our ancestors? Independence was always the goal, Sarah replied. We left because we didn't want to be your rulers. We return because we want to be your partners. Representative Cathara of the Hegemony Alliance stood up, her red skin still flushed with the anger that had driven her species to attack Earth. Pretty words. But you possess technologies that make our greatest achievements look like children's toys. How can there be true equality when the power balance is so extreme? The question hung in the air. Everyone in the assembly knew it was the core issue. How could normal species coexist with beings who could manipulate matter at the quantum level, exist in multiple dimensions, and process information faster than entire planetary networks? Sarah gestured, and the space around them filled with holographic displays showing the galaxy's current challenges. Dying worlds where environmental collapse threatened billions of lives. Ongoing conflicts between species who couldn't resolve territorial disputes. Diseases that affected entire populations. The slow degradation of elder technology that the galaxy depended on but didn't understand. These are problems we can solve together, Sarah said, not by imposing solutions but by sharing knowledge and working as partners. Dr. Vextar, Zephi's colleague from the original expedition, raised a concern that many shared. But if humans provide solutions to all our problems, what happens to our growth as independent species? Don't we become dependent children again? Elena Vasquez stepped forward, having taken a more active role in the negotiations. Let me tell you what we learned during our 3,000 years of observation. Growth doesn't come from struggling alone. It comes from learning, adapting, and choosing your own path with the best information available. She activated new displays showing the genetic development of galactic species over the millennia. Every species here evolved from templates we provided, but you each became something unique. We gave you starting points, not destinies. The Altarians developed philosophy and art beyond anything we imagined. The Corvin created mathematical models that helped us understand dimensional physics. The hegemony species built social structures that solved problems we couldn't. You're saying we taught you things too? Asked Dr. Korthtai, the physicist. You taught us everything that mattered, Sarah said, her voice filled with genuine emotion. You taught us that intelligence takes countless forms, that wisdom comes from diversity, that the universe is far more interesting when filled with different perspectives than when dominated by a single view. Admiral Vectar, who had led the failed attack on Earth, spoke from his position among the hegemony delegation. What guarantee do we have that this partnership won't become domination over time? Power corrupts even with the best intentions. Sarah smiled, and for a moment the entire assembly could feel the vast intelligence behind her expression. Not threatening, but reassuring. The guarantee is built into how we've chosen to exist. We gave up centralized power 3,000 years ago. The human collective isn't a government or an empire. It's a voluntary association of individuals who choose to share knowledge and resources. She gestured, and new displays showed the true structure of human civilization. Instead of hierarchical command systems, it was a network of individuals and small groups, each pursuing their own interest while sharing discoveries with the whole. We learned that the only sustainable form of power is the kind that empowers others, Elena added. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to help every species in it reach their full potential. The debates continued for days, but gradually a framework began to emerge. The New Covenant, as it came to be called, established principles that would govern humanity's return to galactic civilization. First, all existing governments and sovereignty would be respected. Humans would not establish territories or claim authority over any worlds or systems. Second, human knowledge and technology would be shared freely, but never imposed. Each species could choose what to adopt and what to decline. Third, the human collective would serve as advisors and teachers, but never as rulers. Final decisions would always remain with individual species and their chosen governments. Fourth, the surface population of Earth would remain as a living reminder of humanity's humble origins. The enhanced humans would exist primarily in their parallel dimensions, interacting with the galaxy but never overwhelming it. Dr. HFY found herself appointed as the first ambassador to the human collective, a position that made her the primary bridge between enhanced humanity and normal galactic civilization. It was both an honor and a terrifying responsibility. During the final ceremony, she stood beside Sarah Chen 9947 as representatives from across the galaxy signed the New Covenant. "Are you certain this will work?" she asked quietly. Sarah looked out at the assembled delegates, hundreds of different species, each maintaining their independence while choosing to join a larger community. "Nothing is certain," she replied, "but we've learned that the best outcomes come from trust, patience, and the willingness to help others grow into their own strength." The ceremony concluded with a moment that would be remembered throughout galactic history. As the New Covenant was formally signed, every Elder Ruin across the galaxy activated one final time, displaying a simple message in every known language. "Welcome home, children of the stars. The real journey begins now." On Earth, in the village of New Haven, Maria Santos looked up at the night sky and smiled. She couldn't explain why, but she knew that somewhere among those stars her family had just become much larger. The age of separation was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy's children and their parents would grow together toward a future none of them could imagine alone. In the depths of space, human and alien ships began joint missions to heal dying worlds, explore new regions of the galaxy, and solve problems that had seemed impossible when faced alone. The elders had returned not as conquerors, but as the family they had always been. The galaxy had grown up, and it was time to see what they could accomplish together.